Hello, Jenna here, and I'm here at the Crumbs Doilies shop in Soho. And I love fruit. I love eating fruit and vegetables, and I particularly love apples. But obviously, I'm a baker. I make you guys cakes all the time. I need to make sure I get my quota of cake. So I thought it would be good to kind of trick myself into thinking I'm eating fruit and apple stuff by making a cake which looks like an apple. So I'm going to share my recipe with you for this apple and cinnamon apple-shaped cake. Let's go. I'm going to start by making the sponge bit of the apple, which is the main body of the apple, and that is going to be a cinnamon sponge flavour, which is really lovely and light and fluffy. To start with, I should tell you that I have bought these. These are kind of silicone half sphere baking trays. I got these online from a baking supplier. They're really good. They're really good for other stuff like chocolate work and ice cream and things like that, but we're going to bake in them today. So I've got 2 of those, and they're 6 holes each. And then to start with, I'm going to put 190 grams of self-raising flour into my sieve. And I'm adding 190 grams of caster sugar to that. And then I have a teaspoon of cinnamon and a heaped 1/4 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. So just shuffle that through your sieve, along with 190 grams of soft unsalted butter and 3 large free-range eggs. So I've got all my ingredients together. I'm just going to put that on a medium speed and beat it for 1 minute. So that's thoroughly mixed now, so I'm going to add 2 1/4 tablespoons of whole milk. And that just needs to beat for another 30 seconds. And now that that's ready, it's time to scoop it into my baking trays, which I've greased. I just used the spray grease for this, but you could use butter or just a flavourless oil. And I'm going to spoon it in to 3/4 full. And I'm baking those at 170 degrees C for 20 minutes. So my cakes came out of the oven and they are totally cool now, so it's time to trim them. So I'm just going to pop them out, and because this is silicone, it's really, really easy. They just pop out like this. And I'm going to trim them so that they're nice and flat and they stick together, but I want to make sure I don't take off too much, otherwise I'm going to end up with really short, fat apples that aren't appley at all. So I'm going to take off the bare minimum and just running my knife across just the ridge of where it's baked. There we've got just the bottom half of the apple, which is like a semi-sphere. I'm just going to put that to one side and carry on going with the rest of them. Now that I've got all my little half apples ready, I'm going to make some space because I want to put applesauce in the middle of these. I'm going to be using my trusty apple corer. I only just realised how appropriate that is. And I'm going to poke holes, and you've got to be really careful not to go all the way down and make too deep a hole. You just want to wiggle it halfway in and get that bit of cake out. And when you've made all your holes, you need to fill them with appley goodness. And I'm using apple puree. It's got nothing but apples in it. You can make this yourself, or you can buy it at the supermarket. I'm just going to put some into a piping bag and squirt it into the holes. And once it's all filled, it's then time to fill them again with some buttercream. And you can use any flavour buttercream you like. There isn't going to be much buttercream used, so just go to your favourite recipe. Vanilla, I'm using caramel, you can use cinnamon, it's really up to you. Nothing that's going to take away from the flavour of the cinnamon and the apple though. And just pop that into a piping bag, like so. And again, just snip the end off. And all we're going to do is make a ring around half of your apple halves. And when you've done all 6, you just need to then put the other halves on top of them. Okay, so we're almost there, halfway to apple land. We just need to give it a little bit of a crumb coat now to prepare it for the next step. So I'm just going to pick them up between my thumb and forefinger on the top and the bottom, just for handling purposes. And also, just to make things a little bit easier, I've got these tiny little cake boards here. If you don't have these, or you can't get hold of them, you can make your own with cardboard and tin foil, but I've got connections because I own a bakery. So I've got these little guys. I'm just going to pop that onto my turntable. My turntable also has a little bit of non-slip stuff. So for the crumb coat, you can use whatever buttercream you like. You can use vanilla, you can put a bit of cinnamon in it to add to the whole cinnamony vibe. I've got caramel buttercream here. You don't need very much, that's the main thing, because there isn't many crumbs to lock in. So I'm going to pick it up with my thumb and forefingers and just grab a bit on a palette knife and start with the middle section. And once you've got most of one side done, you can then pop it onto your cake board, and the buttercream that's on its little bottom will stick it to the cake board. Now I want to make a slight indentation in the top, because obviously all apples have a little indentation where the stalk comes out. I'm just going to use the end of my apple corer just to kind of wiggle it about and make a little dent. And then just finish off giving it a crumb coat. It's very fiddly at this point because you can't really touch it, but just go slow and you'll get there in the end. So that's one apple down. I'm just going to keep going until I've done all 6, and then they need to be refrigerated for about an hour to set. My cakes have been chilling out. I've just pulled them out of the fridge. They've been in there for about an hour and they're nice and cool and firm. So it's now time to put the outer skin, apple skins on, and I'm going to use sugar paste for that. I've already made it a nice pale green colour, and for each apple you're going to need a ball about this big. And I've got my non-stick board here. I am going to put a little bit of corn flour on here though, just to prevent it from sticking any further. And using a non-stick rolling pin, I'm just going to roll that out till it's about 3 millimeters thick and about 10 centimeters round. If you find that your circle is totally not a circle and you've got like a weird blobby arm coming out, then just use a knife to trim it off. But I've been doing this a while now, so mine's quite circular. But every now and then I do need to trim a little bit off, and it'll just make putting it on so much easier. So now it's time to cover my apples. So I'm going to use my turntable again just to make things a bit easy. So pop him on. And then really, really gently pick up your round of green sugar paste and gently lay them on the top. And the first thing we need to do is keep that indentation in the top of the apple. So I'm just going to put a thumb in the middle and just rub it really gently. And now it's just a case of really gently smoothing it down. You've got to try and make sure you don't let it skirt up and bunch up and go all pleated. So just pick up the bottom of it and gently rub with your hands. Now this bit is even more time consuming than the crumb coating. It's really fiddly, and what you don't want to do is put too much pressure on it or pull it too much, because you're going to split the sugar paste. So just go easy, go gentle, do a tiny bit at a time, keep turning it, keep rubbing it, keep lifting up the skirt, and eventually you'll get to the bottom. And when you get to almost the bottom, where it starts to go in like that, you need to do something a little bit different. So what I'm doing is I've got my little finger here and I'm kind of rolling it, but rolling it upwards like this rather than down like you would with a normal cake. I'm kind of rolling it in. And that way I'm not pulling too much down, and I'm kind of trying to get it into the nook. So that's pretty much there. I just need to trim all the excess off. So I've got a knife here, and I'm going to trim a small amount off at a time, being a little bit generous, because what I don't want is to go too close into where the sugar paste meets the board. Otherwise it's going to expose some of that cake. So I'm leaving a tiny bit, and as I cut I'm going to try and push it in as well. So once you've done that, just go around your whole cake with your knife, just kind of tucking any little straggly bits in. Almost there. He's almost looking like an apple, but there's a couple of details we need to do. One is his little stalk, and I've got some brown sugar paste here. Just using a tiny amount, like a pea-sized amount, I'm just going to get a ball and roll him between my thumb and forefinger into a little sausage, and then make him flat at one end. And I'm just going to stick that on with water, a tiny amount of water with a paintbrush, right in the middle of my little dip. And then I need a little apple leaf, so I've got some more green sugar paste, slightly different shade so it stands out. Just going to give that a little knead between my fingers. And I'm rolling that out to about 2 millimeters thick. And then using a round pastry cutter, starting with a circle. I'm going to shape that with the same pastry cutter, just cutting a little bit off the edge of both sides. And just to make it a bit more leafy, I'm just using this little scribe tool here just to indent a few little leaf marks. And to give it a bit of movement, I'm just going to pinch it between these 3 fingers, well, 2 fingers and a thumb, and just give it a little pinch here, and just instantly it looks a bit more like a real leaf. And then painting just the bottom of one side of this leaf with water, I'm going to stick him onto my apple. Pretty appley right now, but there's one more thing that's going to make him even more appley, and that is this luster dust here. This is by Sugar Flare. It's an edible tint. It's a powder, and I have a very nice, soft, fluffy paintbrush here. I'm just going to really lightly brush onto an area of my apple to kind of give that apple blush look. There he is, my lovely little cinnamon and apple cake, ready to impress your friends. I think it's an apple, but it's definitely not an apple, it's cake, it's dessert. I hope you have lots of fun making these. Let me see how you do by hashtagging Cupcake Jemma in your Instagram posts and your Twitter. And I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, then you should subscribe to my channel by clicking on the link at the end. I'll be back next week with another recipe for you guys, so enjoy making apple cakes. Until then, see ya!